The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. Yeah!
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Pool Guy Show. Today I'm going to talk to you about Diatomaceous earth filters. I'm going to talk this whole podcast about DE filters. I'm going to go over some of the benefits, some of the drawbacks, some troubleshooting for you also. And today's podcast is brought to you by InyoPools.com. InyoPools.com has been helping pool owners find the right pool parts since 2001. With over 50,000 pool parts in stock, order online today and have your parts delivered right to your door. So Diatomaceous earth filters are very popular here in my area in California. I have a lot of them on my pool route. When I first started back in 1988, I would say about 99% of all the filters that I serviced were Diatomaceous earth filters. There were a couple sand filters mixed in there, and there was really no cartridge filters at all back then when I was doing pools. And the cartridge filters, of course, have become more popular over the years. I would say my route is about 60% DE filters and about 40% cartridge filters, and I have one sand filter on my route currently right now. So the Diatomaceous earth filters are very popular in my state. I know other parts of the country, I know in Florida, cartridge filters pretty much dominate, and you may not even see a Diatomaceous earth filter while you're working in Florida. It's all cartridge filters. So I'm going to go over some of the aspects of the Diatomaceous earth filter. So the first thing I want to touch on is what is a DE filter. And a DE filter is basically a filter that uses diatomaceous earth, abbreviated D.E in most cases. And diatomaceous earth is a naturally occurring soft silicose sedimentary rock, and it's easily crumbled up into this fine white powder. So this white powder is what traps all the dirt and algae in a diatomaceous earth filter. And inside the filter itself are these grids, these cloth grids, and when you put diatomaceous earth into the skimmer, it coats the DE filter, the grids in the DE filter, with this white diatomaceous earth powder. And so as water passes through the filter, all the dirt and algae is trapped by the diatomaceous earth that's coating the cloth-like fiber on the grids themselves. So let me go over a few different types of diatomaceous earth filters for you. The first one is your standard filter. It has 8 grids inside there in a circular pattern. When I first started doing filters back in the day, they were the old stainless steel with the vertical grids. I think they were called the Anthony Apollo filter. And they were really ancient pieces of filtration, and everything was brass and everything was stainless steel back then. And there are still some stainless steel filters out there, although I heard that Pentair had just stopped making the 2000 series filter, which is a stainless steel filter. And these last a very long time. You may still have an old filter at your pool if you're a homeowner or on your route, and so you're familiar with these old stainless steel type filters that I used to deal with all the time. The majority of them were stainless steel back when I first started. Now they're made of fiberglass. So these filters have these grids in there, and they're in a circular pattern, and they have a manifold usually on top. The majority of the manufacturers, Jandy, Pentair, and Hayward, and Waterway, and other off-brand filters use a top manifold type filter. And there's one exception. Pentair makes a 4000 series filter, which is to replace the 2000 series, and this one has the manifold on the bottom, which is a really nice filter. I highly recommend this particular filter for you. It's very easy to clean, and it's the only one that has a manifold on the bottom versus the top. I'll go over that in a little more detail when I talk about the troubleshooting for these filters. So basically that's the primary type of filter in California. It's got the 8 grids that are coated with diatomaceous earth. Then you have what's called the Quad D.E filter, and Pentair makes a couple versions of this. They make one for their Sta-Rite brand, and they make a Quad D.E filter for the Pentair brand. And this filter has cartridges inside. The larger ones will have 4 cartridges inside there, and they go up to 100 square feet of filtration area. I'll touch on the square footage also in a little bit later in here. So basically the Quad D.E filter is set up more like a cartridge type filter, and the diatomaceous earth coats these pleats in the cartridges, giving it a larger square footage area and a more compact space. And I find that the Quad D.E filters are very easy to clean, and they really are superior, I think, to the standard D.E filters with the 8 grids. Then you have what's called a bump filter, and this is made by Hayward. You'll find this on a lot of above ground pools. Inside there are these flex tubes that are coated with diatomaceous earth, and these filters you don't really need to take apart and clean. You just pull up on a handle and bump it basically, and this will stir up the dirt and diatomaceous earth, and this is kind of how you backwash the bump filter. Not very common in my area, but I know that they're on the market, so I wanted to mention those filters. So those are the typical types of the D.E filters you're going to find in the backyards in your home or if you service swimming pools. So let me touch a little bit on some of the aspects of the diatomaceous earth filter. The first thing is the grids inside range in size. You can get a D.E filter as small as 24 square feet. They're not very common. 36 square foot are the smallest ones that I see on my route, and they go up to 72 square foot for the largest D.E filters. So the square foot filtration area is a lot smaller than what you would find in the cartridge filter. There's some cartridge filters that go up to 450 square feet, 500 square feet of filtration area. So you're going to see a big discrepancy in the filtration square footage of a diatomaceous earth filter when you compare it to a cartridge filter. However, the diatomaceous earth filter with a smaller square footage, since it uses the diatomaceous earth to coat the grids, you're going to find that the diatomaceous earth, even though it has a small square footage of filtration area, is going to be very efficient and effective, almost equal to, I would say, a 60 square foot diatomaceous earth filter is equal to about a 400 square foot cartridge filter as far as quality of filtration and the area that it can filter for the size pool. So even though the square footage is a lot less, don't be discouraged or confused by that fact. The diatomaceous earth filter works in a totally different way than the cartridge filter works. So some of the benefits of a diatomaceous earth filter is that it filters down to 5 microns or less. So this is going to be the best quality filtration you're going to get for your pool. It'll filter out particles that are microscopic. A cartridge filter typically will filter down to 15 or 20 microns, and a sand filter probably to about 25 to 30 microns. So the diatomaceous earth filter will give you the best, clearest water quality because of the fact that it is a high quality filtration system with the coated grids and the diatomaceous earth trapping in the dirt and algae on there and microorganisms. So definitely for water quality, the D.E filter is the best compared to the cartridge and the sand filter. So that's one of the great benefits of a D.E filter. Another one is that you can backwash a D.E filter, and most D.E filters have a push-pull backwash valve. It's a piston that you pull up, put it in backwash mode, and you turn on the pump, and this will shoot dirt and algae and anything else out along with some diatomaceous earth. So it's very convenient to backwash the filter in between cleanings with a diatomaceous earth filter. And some D.E filters also have a multi-port valve where it has various settings: waste, backwash, rinse. They're not quite as common here in California, but they do make the diatomaceous earth filter with the multi-port backwash valve. And either of these backwash valves is very effective in cleaning the filter out in between cleanings. And of course, you're going to have to recharge the filter with D.E if you backwash it. I'll go over the amount to add to the pool, the filter, in a moment. So those are the two main benefits of a D.E filter: the low micron rating and the clarity of the water and the ability to backwash in between cleanings. Let me give you some of the drawbacks of a diatomaceous earth filter. The first one, of course, is that they're pretty messy. You got this white fine powder that when you backwash, if you're going to backwash the cement or if you're cleaning it on a cement pad, I have one that's actually in a garage and it's carpeted, which is really weird, but the area where the D.E filter's at is just regular cement. But it just makes a big mess whenever I clean this filter, take the lid off. Even if I try to minimize it, it's just messy to clean these filters. Number two, they can be hard to clean, especially the top manifold ones. Whoever designed this designed it just to build the filter and not to actually clean it. In other words, the engineer behind this made it and thought it was a great design, which it is, but it's really hard to clean for a lot of homeowners and even for pool service professionals. The top manifold is a real pain to get off and match up. So you can clean it inside the tank. I have some videos on some tricks on cleaning the top manifold filters, but that's one of the drawbacks, is it could be difficult to clean. Another drawback is that you're going to be adding the diatomaceous earth element. There's also alternatives like perlite. I also have videos on this particular filter element. Or there's other medias you can put into the diatomaceous earth filter. But basically it's going to raise the cost of your filter cleaning because you have to buy the diatomaceous earth to put into the filter versus a cartridge filter, which you don't have to put anything in there, or a sand filter, which generally you don't have to do anything to it. It has the sand in there, and generally you don't have to do any kind of maintenance to the sand or replace it. But the diatomaceous earth is an extra cost that goes into the filter. Another thing, in certain areas, the D.E filters are actually banned by the city. They don't want you installing them at all. Or if you do install them, they want you to plumb a backwash all the way to the sewer line. So that's also one of the things that you have to be aware of too. They may not be suitable for some municipalities and cities. And also in some cities here in California, if you backwash or clean the diatomaceous earth filter and you get diatomaceous earth into the street, you can get fined also for that, and in some areas the fines as high as $10,000. So keep that in mind when you are thinking about replacing your filter or having a filter installed that is a diatomaceous earth filter. Be aware of some of the regulations that cities may impose on it, or some of the fines that may be levied if you clean it out in the street. And believe me, they do enforce that here in California. So be very aware of these facts, that diatomaceous earth is not something that the city really is fond of. So I don't want to sound like I'm being very negative towards diatomaceous earth filters. I just want you to be aware of the drawbacks with the filter. The benefits are actually very great, so it kind of evens out the drawbacks in my opinion. So let me give you some troubleshooting of a diatomaceous earth filter. Number one problem you're going to run into is that when you clean your filter, or even if you don't clean it, you may turn on your pump one day and you're going to see diatomaceous earth powder coming out of the return jet. You're going to see the powder on the bottom of the pool, and this is one of the most common problems with a diatomaceous earth filter, is that diatomaceous earth is not meant to get back into your pool, but it can under the circumstances, like a grid that is ripped or torn. Even a small quarter-inch, half-inch tear in a grid will let back a tremendous amount of diatomaceous earth into the pool. If the top manifold has a crack on top, even a small crack on top will cause diatomaceous earth to get back into the pool. And sometimes the backwash valve O-ring will have a problem, and you'll have diatomaceous earth leaking back into the pool. If air gets in the filter for some reason, if you have a problem with your pool equipment and air gets into the top of the tank when you turn off the pool equipment, this air will push water back through the skimmer and thereby pushing diatomaceous earth back through your skimmer. So D.E will also leak back into your pool through the skimmer line in some cases, depending if your pool has a problem. So this is a very easy to fix problem. Basically take the filter apart, inspect the manifold on top or bottom depending on which D.E filter you have. If you have a Quad D.E filter, inspect the cartridges for any kind of tears in it, inspect the grids for any kind of rips or tears in it, and then replace whatever has a hole in it, and that should stop the diatomaceous earth from leaking back into your pool. So the solution is pretty simple. Another problem you're going to have is actually sometimes getting the lid back onto the filter after cleaning it. And this is the same problem you're going to run into with the cartridge filter. And usually by changing the lid O-ring, this will solve the problem, lube it up really well. I prefer using silicone lubricant versus the magic lube that you would find in the pool store. I find that the silicone lube on the O-ring allows the O-ring to last much longer, and it's much easier to get the lid on top. With the silicone, it's not as messy. You can find a silicone spray online or at your retail store. Usually in the RV section, auto section, they have the silicone spray that people use on their RVs. And so that's one thing you're going to run into, is you may have trouble getting the lid back on your filter. But in most cases, you're going to be able to solve that by changing the O-ring on the filter tank itself. Another problem you're going to have with a diatomaceous earth filter is the push-pull piston type backwash valve may get stuck or stiff. You won't be able to pull it up or push it down. And there's two O-rings inside this particular valve that expand or crack, getting it jammed inside there. So you just have to pull out the piston and replace those O-rings. And if your piston's really old, 5 to 10 years old, I would just get a whole new piston and insert it in there. So that's one problem you're going to have with the backwash valve. I'm getting stuck in the closed or open position. If you have a multi-port valve, there's a spider gasket that wears out inside there, and it may be stiff. You won't be able to turn the multi-port valve in some cases. So that's also a problem you're going to have, is that the backwash valve may have problems with the diatomaceous earth filter, and they're easily fixed. I have videos on fixing those two problems on my YouTube channel. And speaking of the resources on my channel, I just about have videos covering every diatomaceous earth filter on the market. I also have videos showing you how to clean them and put them back together, how to change the grids, how to change the whole grid assembly. So I have a lot of videos featuring diatomaceous earth filters. So you can find those videos on my YouTube channel. You can also go to my website, and I have a page on diatomaceous earth filters with all those links on it. So I'm going to go over when to clean your DE filter and when to backwash it. There's a pressure gauge on top of the filter, and it has readings in the PSI, which is the pressure that's inside the filter itself. And usually when your DE filter is clean, it'll be right around 15 or 20 psi, and when it gets dirty, the needle will go up to about 30 psi. So every time the pressure in the filter goes up 10 psi, you want to backwash the filter. After backwashing the filter, if you notice that the pressure went back up pretty rapidly to 25 or 30 psi, this usually indicates that the filter is too dirty to backwash. You have to take it apart and clean it. So about every 6 months, depending on your area or how big your filter is, how much dirt you get in the pool, you generally have to take the filter apart and clean it versus backwashing it. And you may not have to backwash your filter at all during that 6 month period, or you may have to backwash it 1 or 2 times. After backwashing the filter, you want to recharge it. So you're going to add some more DE back into the filter, because when you backwash it, some DE is also washed out along with the dirt and whatever else is in there coming out of the filter. So you want to recharge the filter. If you have a 60 square foot filter, you want to put 4 or 5 scoops back in. If you have a 48 square foot filter, you want to put 3 or 4 scoops. And for a 36 square foot filter, you want to put 2 or 3 scoops. And this will recharge the filter in between the cleaning cycle. So you want to keep an eye on the pressure gauge. This will indicate when you have to backwash a DE filter or take it apart and clean it. So it's pretty simple. You just watch the pressure and check it once a week to see if it goes up or not. And if you notice that after you clean your DE filter, the pressure goes back up right away also by 10 psi, then probably your grids are worn out in the filter. The grids last anywhere from 3 to 5 years. And so if you see a rapid increase in the filter pressure after cleaning it, then the grids are probably too old and you have to replace those grids. So let me touch briefly on how much diatomaceous earth or DE to add to your filter. And it's based on the size of your filter is equal to the amount you're going to add of diatomaceous earth. And I use the Aladdin DE scoop. They have one at Leslie's Pools that's the same thing. And you may find an off-brand DE scoop. It's basically a 1 pound scoop. And one thing you have to know about the 1 pound scoop is that when diatomaceous earth is dry, a 1 scoop is equal to half a pound of diatomaceous earth. So every scoop that you make is only half a pound. So 2 scoops will make 1 pound. Even though the scoop says 1 pound on it, it's going to take 2 scoops of diatomaceous earth to equal 1 pound of DE. So keep that in mind when you're doing the measurements for diatomaceous earth. I get asked this a lot. How can a 1 pound scoop, why am I putting so much DE in there with a 1 pound scoop? And the reason is that the 1 pound scoop is only half a pound of diatomaceous earth in the dry form. Let me first touch on the manufacturer recommended amount of diatomaceous earth. If you have a 36 square foot filter, they want you to put 6 or 7 scoops in. For a 48 square foot filter, they want you to put 10 scoops in. And for a 60 square foot filter, they want you to put 12 scoops in. So breaking that down, for a 60 square foot filter, 12 scoops would be about 6 pounds of diatomaceous earth. But I always like to go lighter on my diatomaceous earth, and I found that over the years with the diatomaceous earth filters, when you go lighter on it, the filtration is much better. So for a 36 square foot filter, I would put 5 or 6 scoops in. For a 48 square foot filter, I would put 8 scoops in. And for a 60 square foot filter, I would put 10 scoops in. And you can't really go wrong using the manufacturer recommendation. However, you can overpack the filter with diatomaceous earth if you put too much DE in the pool. And if you put too little in there, it's not going to be efficient and not run properly. So the amount of diatomaceous earth is kind of important when you're charging the filter after cleaning it or installing a new filter. So keep that in mind, that too little diatomaceous earth will cause problems, and too much diatomaceous earth will also cause problems. So I wouldn't add any more than the recommended amount by the manufacturer, and I wouldn't go too far down from what I recommend as far as the diatomaceous earth for the filter. So that's an overview of diatomaceous earth filters, And if you need more information, you can, of course, email me, contact me through my YouTube channel, and also check out the videos I have on various diatomaceous earth filters. You can also get one of my great resources, which is my ebook. You can order that directly from my website. I sell that for $9.99, and I go over a lot of this also in the ebook regarding diatomaceous earth filters, and all the video links are also in the ebook for you. If you're a pool service professional and you need more help out there on your route, you can join me on my Patreon site, and you can get one-on-one real-time texting or phone calls with me. And I'll also give you a copy of my ebook when you join that site, and you're eligible for a discount on your general liability insurance. So if you need more help out there in the field, keep my Patreon site in mind. So I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast on diatomaceous earth filters. And for future podcasts, I have some great interviews lined up. I'll be recording those shortly. But in the meantime, have a great rest of your week, and God bless.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast